Oh, uno, dos, tres, cuatro. You see that black boy over there running scared. His old man in a bottle. He done quit his 9 to 5. He drink full time. Now he's living in a bottle. See that black boy over there running scared. His old man got a problem, and it's a bad one. He done pawned off damn near everything. His old woman a wedding ring for bottle. Welcome to The Reality Check with Charles Butler here on Red State Talk Radio. It's Freedom Friday, and we're back at it. We're going to have Pastor Brody call in, and Pastor Brody is protesting Joe Biden in front of his house. Now, you'd think that would make some network news. You'd think that Fox or someone would go out there and, call it what it is. Say, oh, we're protesting Vice President Biden, and we're protesting the fact that he's killing black policies kill black babies, etc. No, that's not happening. Why isn't it happening? It hasn't happening because they don't want to say anything bad about Joe. They want to turn this country into Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm going to go there today. It's Freedom Friday, baby. Talk about whatever I want. You guys can call in and talk about whatever you want to. Also, number is 215-867-8255. It's 215-867-8255. President Trump has caught the coronavirus. And some people say, good for him. He believes that fat meat's greasy. Now I bet he believes that fat meat is greasy. Okay. Fat meat being greasy. My normal suspects haven't clicked in today on YouTube. I don't know what that's all about, but hey, it's Freedom Friday. So I guess they're out exercising their freedom to tune into my show or not. Hope you guys do tune in though, because I miss you. I miss you tweeting, texting to me out there. Okay. So I got you pulled up. Don't worry. If you got something to say, I'll put it up there. But I'm waiting on this pastor to call me, and he hasn't called yet. So I'm going to call him. You know how some of these people are. They're a little time challenged, and we don't have that kind of time on this show to be time challenged. I hope this is the right number for Brody. Okay.
Talk about then press the pound key.
Uh-oh. No one. Okay, he didn't get it. Okay, because I didn't send it to the right deal here. It's okay, let's see here. It's 215. Let's see. It's 214. 214. Okay. See, that's what happens when you have normal fingers and you have these small boxes, right? Normal fingers in small boxes. 215-867-8255. Got it. Okay. We'll hear from him in a minute or so. I'm sure he'll call in. Hey, but look, the president caught coronavirus and the first lady. So I wake up this morning about 5:00 my time, and my phone's blowing up. People are calling. People have been texting. I guess, people on the left coast heard it earlier than we did, right? So I'm going, oh my God, president has coronavirus and the first lady. I wonder if the vice president has it, right? So I'm, looking, through my notes. It's 4:00 in the morning. It's cold here because the temperature is dropped. And then I get a call from the West Coast. It's an old girlfriend of mine. And she says, Charles, guess what? The president has coronavirus. Oh, I'm so sorry. Bless his heart. And she had all of this sympathy going out to the president because she hates Trump. I mean, she literally hates Trump. She doesn't love Biden, but she hates Trump. Well, after about 15 minutes of the sympathy and all that good stuff. She flipped. She went 180 out and went back to her old Trump hating ways. I said, well, what happened to the, you hope the president gets well? Well, those days, hey, he brought it on himself. He thought it was a hoax. And I said, well, a lot of people thought it was a hoax. So, he said it was a hoax, but they were saying it's not a big deal. That's what they told the president. That's what Fauci and Brick and all these other people told the president. President didn't come up with that by itself in a vacuum. So, let me see if I got the right number this time for this guy. And because he probably got distracted because he's protesting. Literally, he's protesting, folks.
Hello?
Yeah, Pastor Brody.
Pastor Broden.
Yeah, did you call in?
I missed that number.
It's in your phone.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So we're ready to rock and roll with Pastor Broden. He's going to call in and we're going to go over what's going on out there. This is going to be a great interview. Hey, the White House, they said Dr. Siegel, Mark Siegel, love Siegel. He said Trump is in good spirit. He's showing mild symptoms after a positive COVID test. Showing positive, good spirits after his positive test. Great. Because we need Donald Trump. Lord, please take care of Donald Trump. I don't know where this country would be if we let the politicians back in that office. We got to have, and I said this earlier, we have to fill that void after 4 years with another business guy, not another politician. I like Mike Pence. I don't have anything bad to say about Mike Pence, but he's not a businessman. He's a politician. And Mike needs to stand up and show those business credentials if he has them. And that business chutzpah instead of the old Washington song and dance, the old Washington soiree. Because, see, I don't do the Washington soiree very well. I don't know many people who do, who think like me or think like us. We bring the facts, and the facts hurt. See, the facts hurt. You always say, J.C. Watts used to say, the truth hurts before it can help. I think nothing could be further from the truth. The truth hurts before it can help. JC had some sayings, boy, or had some sayings. He's not dead. That's my guy. I told you, I've been having this back and forth with Michael Steele. And we haven't talked really about the election or about the what do you call it? The debate. Because his boy got really beat up. And, I'm going to, of course, take Trump's side and he's going to take Biden's side. He'll talk about how unpresidential President Trump is. And I'll talk about how I don't really care. So we just beat that dead horse. And there's no reason to do that again. But look, Pastor needs to call in and let me hit this guy one more time because I really would like to have him speak to us.
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm going to hang up. Man, these guys, man. Hey, hello, Pastor Broden. How are you?
Hello?
Yeah, how you doing?
Pretty good. Is this the radio show?
It is. It's Charles Butler and the Reality Check.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was calling that number.
Yeah, that's
I don't
okay.
know what was happening,
Yeah,
man.
look, this is the deal. So you guys are protesting in front of Joe Biden's house.
Yeah, we were there. We were in front of his house protesting his policies on the life issue.
Okay, and you talked about killing black babies. So you're talking
Right.
the pro-abortion issues and the agenda that Obamacare put forth about everyone had to have, birth control in their policies and the right to an abortion. And, I forget the stat. I think I was reading a book, or there used to be a movie out about 10 years ago called 20 million black babies were killed by abortion. And I thought the number was a little high and staggering until I got to really looking at the numbers and the facts. And no wonder Black America is the number 2 minority, and the Hispanics overtook us. We abort all our babies. We're aborting, and those that aren't aborted, Pastor, they're being treated poorly. I get tired of going to a Walmart or one of these stores and listening to these black women screaming at their children, calling them names, and just being very abusive. I mean, there's no love. And I look at these children, I go, no wonder our young people are so screwed up. There's no love here. There's no love from this mother. No respect. I had to call a lady out in a Walmart. I really did. I told her I was going to call the police on her the way she was talking to her daughter.
Yeah. Well, all of that is reflective of a policy that has disintegrated the black family.
Right.
Has kicked the black male out.
Right.
Marginalized God's definition of what a family is, redefined it into a debauchery. And so all of those experimentations, all of those things have taken place in the community of a guinea pig. And we have the guinea pigs where all the social experimentation and stuff is taking place.
Right.
So our community is victimized of policies and of a deliberate attempt to destroy family and redefine family in America.
Well, let me ask you this.
The testing ground for all of that.
Let me ask you this, Pastor Broden. And how do we spell your last name, sir?
B as in boy, R-O-D as in David, E-N, Broden.
Broden. Okay, got it. So Pastor Broden, let me just run this past you real quick.
Okay.
Back when I was a boy, my mother sent off for a magazine to the government printing office. And in those days, anything printed by the GPO was free. All you had to do was request it. So my mother sent off and got this report. It was called The Crises of the Black Family, a national crisis, right? A national crisis. And in that report, Senator Moynihan, at that time, Assistant Secretary of Labor Patrick Moynihan, said that if these policies were implemented, meaning basically the Great Society policies, that they would destroy the black family. And Moynihan said that he had presented this both to Kennedy and to Johnson. And they said, let's do it. He said these policies will destroy the black family. And they were like, yeah, let's do it. I'm not shocked.
Well,
I was at a high school reunion, or actually an elementary school reunion last year. And I was listening to a buddy of mine, and he was telling this story. And it's a story that I often tell, but I really can't validate or verify it because it seems it was so long ago. I'm 68, and this is happening when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. Our fathers were working in the plant. And these white men were coming through our neighborhood telling our mothers that they could get as much money as my dad brought home every month if they forced my father out of the house. So you went from homes in my neighborhood where almost every home, I would say 95% of the homes had a father or a man, to about 20% when I left in 1970. Even my father was forced from his house by my mother.
I think that has been empirically documented. I don't know if they were going and saying, if you do that. They were saying to these women, if you receive government assistance, you cannot have a man in the house.
No, you're missing my point. You're missing my point. My point was my neighborhood was considered by Ebony Magazine the ideal integrated neighborhood in 62. These men were coming around. Daryl, this guy's name is Daryl Ott. He was telling this story, and I listened to it. I said, Daryl, I thought that I knew that happened, but I didn't know anybody who else repeated that story but me. These men came through our neighborhoods and told our mothers, if you kick your man out of the house, the government will give you as much money as he brings home every week. It's a true story, man.
Yeah. I heard that. It needs to be documented. I've never heard that side of the story. I heard that welfare was conditional. Welfare support for women, black women, was conditioned on the fact that there were no men in the house. That is documented. Now, what you're saying, I have never heard of that.
Yeah,
That's different. That's
so
they're coming to intact families.
Intact families.
Saying to intact families,
Yes.
if you get rid of your husband,
Yes.
we can pay you more than what he's
Yes.
bringing in.
Yeah,
That's different. I've never heard that.
Our community was a tract, a subdivision full of 3-4 bedroom homes, full basements, full yards, just beautiful neighborhoods. They've been owned by. We moved in when white people were there, and the neighborhood transition, of course. And when black people came in the neighborhood, these men came through our community, 64, 65, while my dad's at work, knocking on the door. I'm like, what? We were like, why are these white men in our neighborhood? So we run in to check out what's going on, right? And that's what they were doing. But Daryl, last year, he told that same story. So we hadn't shared that story. We hadn't talked about this ever.
Oh, okay.
We hadn't talked about it ever.
Okay.
And he was telling the same story that I have told for years, but I never had anyone else tell that story until last year when we were at our elementary school reunion.
You guys need to document that, man. Go get some interviews of some of your friends and mothers and fathers who may be still alive and try to document the fact that took place. That's extraordinary.
Well, no, it's not.
Extraordinary, but it certainly affirms what we have all sensed, is that there has been a deliberate attempt to destroy the black community in America.
This is what I don't understand, Pastor. And I don't understand, see, I am not a big fan of preachers being in politics for a number of reasons. But when Daddy King said he supported JFK, who was an ardent racist, and told Jackie Robinson in his meeting to try to get the black vote, because at that particular time, Jackie Robinson was the spokesman for black folks. And he sat down with Jackie Robinson and said, I don't know many colored people, and I'd like you to help me. And Jackie Robinson said, at that particular time, I'm thinking to myself, this man's been in public office 20 years and he hasn't gotten to know any colored people. I'm not supporting him. So everybody knew Dick Nixon. All of the civil rights leaders knew Dick Nixon and Eisenhower. Nobody ever talks about that, though. So long story short, when Daddy King, when Kennedy called King when he was in jail, he didn't know King, but Harry Belafonte, and I heard this from Hella Belafonte, put him up to call in Dr. King. And then Daddy King came out and said, if anybody who support my son, to try to help my son, I'm going to support him. And that's when the big switch came, supposedly. And I tell you, Kennedy was never a proponent. Yeah. Kennedy was never a proponent of civil rights. Never. As a senator, as a congressman, he was never. In fact, his daddy was an ardent racist. He hated Jews and blacks.
Right.
So you guys are talking about these babies and these policies. It's amazing that more people were on food stamps and more people were going into poverty under Obama and Biden, and they were just gleefully, just shuffling along. And they had an economy that sold off all our jobs, and people were running around telling me, I'm gonna get an Obama phone. I'm going to get an Obama phone. Well, the Obama phone couldn't do internet. The Obama phone didn't do texting. So what the hell did it do?
It produced a slave mentality.
And that mentality,
that's what it did.
So you have more people, more women who went on welfare, more and black men in this country still are suffering the vestiges of the civil rights policies and affirmative action, because nobody came to the defense of making these companies accountable for hiring black folks. They said, well, we'll hire a black woman, and we get a twofer. And nobody ever refuted that twofer a strategy that was implemented by corporate America. Nobody. Mm-hmm. And we were pushed out to pasture. So now you got Black Lives Matter come along, and they say black men are not important. They said no man is important. We support the LGBT agenda.
Right.
And so people are running around.
I did an article. I did an article for Star Parker.
Okay.
And I said in that article I think last year.
Okay.
That all of the effeminate men that are seen in media
Right.
are black men.
Right.
Dressing like women, the famous, drag queens and all of that stuff. They're all black.
No, well, when you look,
Will Smith's son dressed up like a girl. So did Snoop Dogg's boy. All of it, and they get all the publicity. I said that's not by accident. That's by design.
Don't forget, Michael. Don't forget, Magic's son.
Yeah.
The guy who's
a flaming homosexual. He's flaming.
Yeah, well, he'll be dead soon. He'll be dead. But the thing is, when you look at all these AIDS commercials, all these commercials for HIV, all of them have some strange looking black man in the damn commercial. Like they got this one with this kid that looks like he has a snake wrapped around his head, and but when you think about this, Pastor, you probably didn't think about this, but when you get a chance, you go back and look at some of Barack Obama's old videos from his second term. And he's sitting there with his legs crossed like a woman, and he's breaking his wrist like this. You can't see me. I'm on the YouTube, and Barack's flicking his wrist like a little girl. And I'm going, man, this dude is coming out. Because here in Chicago, he's known as Bathhouse Barry among the white donors.
Yeah, that was out there. That rumor was out there that he was.
No question.
Homosexual.
It's not.
The point is this: it's all part of a strategy, and the strategy by the left, their goal, their ambition is to flip this nation into a socialistic paradigm, and we are but an instrument, what they call useful idiots, to accomplish their agenda. And we have been deceived in believing their narrative and in their agenda, and there has been nothing that they have promised us has come true, and they toxify our issues and use those issues for themselves. And we are at the point now of seeing this country change into a socialistic paradigm, and in large part is because of a 90+% voting pattern of black people to support the very doctrine that will ultimately destroy this nation and destroy our community.
But this is you're absolutely right. I agree with you 110%. I say it all the time. One of the issues here is that you have in this election cycle, you have black people who are supporting Trump. They're either vocally supporting Trump or silently supporting Trump, but they're supporting Donald Trump. Now, Joe Biden has said such racist things about black folks, and they continue to go out and support this blatantly racist dude who says, my state was a slave state. I don't want my children to go to school in racial jungles. Who say something like that? Who in their right mind,
racist.
whether they were
racist.
Racist. But what politician in his right mind would stand on the floor of the Senate and say, I don't want my children to go to school in a racial jungle and not be called a racist or a white supremacist? The man
who has the support of his constituents. If he can stand up there and know that his constituents is going to support him still, he'll say anything he wants to say and get away with it because his constituents will put him back in there again and again and again for 47 years.
And don't forget,
that's what that is.
And not only did they put him back in, it tickled me when this is a guy who's never been right on one policy issue. Never been right. Even when they said we're going to go get bin Laden, he said, no, don't do it. He admitted to that. Dude, I'm just saying. Where are you, Pastor? It's a little noisy.
He's a useful idiot too. So
it's a little noisy where you are.
I'm in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware right now. We just left Joe Biden's house where we did a 15-minute protest. They allowed us to do that, and we essentially called him out on his policies of supporting the culture of death. and abortion,
Mm-hmm.
which has its greatest or has an adverse impact on our community most,
Right.
and that most abortions that are conducted in America are conducted on Black women.
Yeah.
And all of you've heard about baby parts being sold in the marketplace for experimentation, scientific experimentation, all of that. Those are Black babies.
Oh, yeah.
Those are Black babies.
Yeah.
And there's no outrage in our community. Large part is because we have been blinded to the fact and we don't know what's happening to us. It's a spiritual blindness. And that's why I'm engaged in this debate and in this argument, because I see the spiritual side of this. And so we're attempting to try to do three things, James. Number one is to provide information. Number two, education, and then activation takes place. Information, ask the question, what's going on? Most Black people don't have a clue. They're oblivious to the political manipulating and maneuvering that is being done on them. And they are unfortunately, a willful pawn on the chessboard. Education asks and answers the question, why is this happening? It is here where we can begin to examine the strategies of the left, of the Marxists, of the socialists, of the secular humanists, the Darwinists. What is the agenda? The agenda is to usurp our Constitution, undermine our Judeo-Christian ethic, and replace it with a hedonistic, immoral agenda that will lead us towards one world government. It is the globalists who is financing
out of their neighborhoods and said, get in your cars, get on the train, get the hell out of our neighborhood. We don't want you here. This is what they did to Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter had negotiated with the mayor to shut down the highway on a Saturday morning. The people in the community went out and ran Black Lives Matter out of the neighborhood so they couldn't shut down the freeway. Okay.
I wish they would run out the thugs out of the neighborhoods and the gang members and the dope dealers. They need to run them out too.
But this is where I fault the Black churches. This is where I fault Black politicians. And this is all I'll say. This is the analogy. If you could eliminate the Black Panther Party here in Chicago, I'm just using Chicago. If Fred Hampton was assassinated in his bed, but the FBI and the Chicago Police Department left the Blackstone Rangers, the Peace Stone Nation, all these Black criminal gangs totally intact. Totally intact. In fact, Jeff Ford, who's in prison for life, said the only reason I'm in prison is because I wouldn't sell crack cocaine in the Black community.
What does that tell you, sir?
I already know. That tell me. But the point is, you know,
I know you know, but you've got people listening to you that don't.
But this is the
what does that tell you? That there is a deliberate strategy to maintain the kind of chaos and confusion in our community.
And you know what?
Go ahead. It is deliberate.
Yeah,
it is not incidental. It is not accidental. It is not organic. It is synthetic. And we need to come to recognize that, and we need to hammer that point over and over and over again. Repetition is the best way to break the spell.
But Pastor,
we got to keep saying it.
Pastor Broughton, people like yourself, you know what I've heard from pastors? I've heard from pastors when we talk about, preaching the gospel. They said, "Well, I can't preach against homosexuality because I would lose my choir. I would lose half my donations. Because they cover like."
Well, let me say this. Let me say this to you because you need to hear this. There are two types of Christians. Let me break this down for you. There are cultural Christians who are playing political correctness, which is ultimately cultural correctness, which is out of the Communist Manifesto. And then there are biblical Christians. You, sir, need to become aware of what a biblical Christian is so that you will not be condemning of those who are biblical versus those who are cultural. The examples that you're giving me are of Christians who are cultural and more concerned about playing political correctness and appealing to a cultural definition as opposed to a biblical definition.
Right. No, and
that's question. Why I'm standing up as a biblical Christian saying to you and others, stop condemning the Bible when the Bible is not affirming the kind of mess that you see taking place in the church.
I've never condemned the Bible.
Condemn those false prophets that are standing behind those pulpits and wolves who are standing behind those pulpits, misleading our community and misleading you.
They never misled me. In fact, I everything that you said, I've said.
Well, they got you believing that Christianity is a losing proposition. It's not.
I never said that is. I never said that Christianity was a losing proposition. What I said to you and gave you were examples of what's going on in a number of black churches or pastors that I talked to. That's what I told you. That people that I talked to. I never condemned the black church.
Preface your observation with so-called Christian churches who are not biblical.
I didn't call them Christian.
And black people need to come to where. Okay, Christian churches. Okay,
I did not call them Christian. Right. I believe in the
you
scripture.
Call them churches. Okay.
I believe in the scripture. I believe in the gospel. And I told you, and I said when I was talking to you that they said they can't preach the gospel because they would lose all of this part of their congregation, which is a major fight. At Trinity Church. Trinity Church is a cesspool full of homosexuals and bisexuals. It is. That's what it is.
Right. In Chicago.
Reverend Wright's church. Yeah, that's why I left. Too many, Barack Obama ran around with 4 openly queer guys or 3 openly queer guys, and they call themselves the Down Low Club. Like we didn't know what that meant. So they call themselves the DLC. Like we didn't know what that meant, right? So Donnie Young, who was the choir director, when Barack went to run for president, they killed him in his apartment, and they killed the other 2 companions in their apartment. They all were professional hits.
Right. I don't doubt that.
Well, I mean, that's just what
there is a moral, James. There is a moral rot in America. It's not just in our community.
Right.
It's across America. We have redefined marriage. We have codified sodomy. We're looking to legalize pedophilia. Transgenderism is no longer an anomaly. It is normative now. There is a moral rot in our country.
That's why they don't want this lady.
It is about to flip, and it's not by accident. It's by design. But the Marxists know in order for them to win, they have got to redefine morality in America.
Right.
And they've got to redefine family in America.
Right.
And they've got to destroy the institution.
But listen,
if you allow me just a second or two.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just sort of define for you where this all comes from.
Uh-huh.
In 1929, in the Frankfurt School in Germany, Antonio Gramsci and communist philosophers asked the question, what happened with the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917? It did not accomplish the purpose to which it was implemented.
Right.
And the reason why it did not work in Western Europe was because Antonio Gramsci and those philosophers said that classical Marxism, which is an economic system, will not work to subvert our capitalism in Western Europe. And the reason was there are institutions that were undergirded by the Judeo-Christian ethic that maintain civility and maintain the culture.
Mm-hmm.
They said, we've got to figure out a way to undermine these institutions.
Right.
And they said it cannot be classical Marxism. It had to be cultural Marxism.
Mm-hmm.
Cultural Marxism tell you exactly what it is. It doesn't deal with economics. It deals with behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It deals with worldview. It deals with people's value systems.
Mm-hmm. It does.
So they changed from an economic emphasis to a cultural emphasis.
Right.
And it is called cultural Marxism. When
Right.
it came to America, it did not come over here under that moniker. It came over this way. Political correctness.
Right.
And political correctness has been used to destroy America.
Well, an example to your
today.
example, America voted and had its representatives vote into law that marriage was between a man and a woman, the Defense of Marriage Act. This goes to the Supreme Court, and 9 unelected officials overturned the people's will, overturned a law that the people wanted. They just eliminated a law that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a disciple of the devil, as far as I'm concerned. She was amoral. She was against motherhood. She was against men, and it's called Miss Andre. She was against the Constitution. She said it needed to be rewritten. I mean, this is a woman. I don't understand why people praise her. I think that she was a disciple of the devil. I thought she was a Satanist myself.
Well, the other disciples praised their disciples, but my point was this: is that Antonio Gramsci identified those institutions, and he said we must destroy Christianity and destroy these institutions. Now, you take a look at the institutions that most influence us in America. There are 7 of them. You got businesses, you have academia, you have the arts, you have major media, you have the government, and then there's 2 more. You have family, and then you have the church. All those institutions have capitulated to political correctness and to the Marxist paradigm. And that's where we're headed as a nation. All these institutions.
Well, I tell you,
so what you're seeing is a deliberate attempt on the part of a strategy to flip this nation, and they've used as their primary instrument to get it done
civil
with
rights.
The black community, because we
Civil
voted
rights.
These Democrats and Marxists in the office repeatedly,
Right.
over and over again. We vote them in, and they're steadily destroying our nation.
And certainly destroying our neighborhoods. And you know what I used to say when I was on a local station here in Chicago? I would say, it's not a Republican down there that's had his foot on your neck the last 120 years. It's a damn Democrat. And all you people running around talking about you a Democrat. I don't understand how you could say that when these people are shooting you, taking, undereducating you. They allow your neighborhoods to rot. They allow drugs to run up and down the streets of your community. And you don't say anything, but I'm a Democrat. I said, this guy, Dick Durbin, he never comes to the black neighborhood until his election season. Like this cycle, he's up for election, and he's all over the black churches. You won't see him again for another 6 years.
Yeah, we've been deceived. And if you know anything about Scripture, in First Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, 9, and 10, tells of a false signs and false wonders, and that it will deceive many, those who have rejected the love of the truth and have believed what is false. And then it says this, that God will send a deluding spirit upon them and will deceive them. The deception I submit to you today is a philosophy that is sourced in Karl Marx, who said this: my goal in life is to dethrone God and to destroy capitalism. That's precisely what is happening in America. And many of us are oblivious to it, and we're not paying attention, nor are we talking about it to the extent that we can deliver people from this seductive lie.
Well, the thing
that has strangled our community. There's a chokehold on our community, and it's a spiritual one, and it can only be broken by the Spirit.
Are you familiar? Are you familiar with the work of Adam Clayton Powell Sr. in Harlem?
No, I'm not. I know of him. I know that he was there. I know he had a significant role to play in the civil rights movement.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about his talking about his daddy. I'm talking about Adam Clayton Powell's father, his senior.
Okay.
So anyway,
talking about junior then.
I'm talking about senior.
Okay. No, I don't know about senior.
Well, senior is, see, we have to know our history, because history repeats itself. And the Harlem Renaissance was nothing, was about about debauchery, homosexuality, and Adam Clayton Powell Sr. preached
Marxism.
And Marxism and socialism.
And Marxism.
He preached about it from the pulpit, and it's in his biography. But you have to do your homework and your research. It's about the black church. I found all this reading about the black church, and because I'm writing a book about pastors and politicians and attorneys, and the miseducation and being misled by these groups of people. Because have
you read Harold Cruz's book, The Crisis of the Negro Intellectual?
Harold Cruz was my professor at the University of Michigan in the 70s when he wrote the dang old book.
Okay. I'm a graduate from the University of Michigan too. When did you graduate?
1975.
Yeah, 75.
LSNA.
We were there at the same time then.
Mm-hmm. I was a
We were there
football
at the
player.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
You were what?
I was a football player.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then you were there with who's some names that I know?
Denny Franklin, Paul Seal, Gil Chapman.
Yeah. Bell?
He was way behind me.
Ron Bell?
Gordy Bell.
Okay. Gordy Bell. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gordy Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there in 71, 72,
Mm-hmm.
70. I graduated in 75.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in 75.
Yeah, I was the only brother in NROTC.
Yeah.
I wore a Navy uniform every Wednesday on campus.
Right.
And
okay.
One day a guy took my cover and I beat him up, and we never had anybody take covers off ROTC guys the rest of the year. Because we used to play rough, man. Remember we shut down LSNA? we shut down LSNA. I mean, man, those were the days, and we had real agendas,
right?
And we were about real issues.
I used to have a radio program at the on the campus. It was called Revolutionary Radio.
Mm-hmm.
Me and a BC Sharakia.
Don't know who she was.
Yeah, that was he was a philosophy student out of Jamaica.
Uh-huh. Well, do you remember Rovon? Do you remember Rovon Locke?
Name sounds familiar.
Come on, man. Everybody knew Rovon. Everybody was over.
I may have.
Everybody, the whole Black Center was over the bank. There over Ann Arbor Bank. That's where the Black Studies Center department was, over Ann Arbor Bank, right there on University.
Yeah, I like I said, the name sounds familiar, but do you remember the name P.M. Smith?
Yeah, of course. I took a class from P.M. Smith
PM.
called Law in the Community.
PM.
Called Law in the Black Community. I have the folder right down here in my file of the paperwork from his so
we got some
from his class.
We got some common experiences, but back to our topic, man. I honestly believe that that the way to wake up the community is through those three things I said: information, education, and activation. Right now, we're just totally ignorant and totally blinded to what's going on in our culture and in our community. I think you're hitting on some things that are true, but I think they're symptomatic of a larger problem. And the larger problem is a deliberate spiritual.
We talk about that
to bring this nation down. In order to move us towards globalism and world government. That's where we're headed.
Anytime you legitimize homosexuality, sodomy, anytime you legitimize, Barack Obama, given his history, given his policies, homosexuals can serve openly in the military. Transgenders can be integrated into any billet that they want. These people have psychological issues. If you're a man and you think you need if you're a man and you think you need a vagina, I'm sorry, you have a vagina. You have a problem. And if you're a woman who thinks you need a penis, you got a problem. I'm sorry. Psychological issues. But anyway, but we had a Supreme Court at the time who supported that nonsense. And so when we flip this, we've come full circle now. So now we have a Supreme Court that's going to be 6-3 supposedly. I think it's still going to be 5-4 because you can never tell which way Roberts is going. But it's supposed to be 6-3. This is the beginning of God saving this country when this woman gets confirmed. Lawsuits will be brought.
You believe that?
I do believe.
You believe that?
I do.
I'm not so confident, man, about the Supreme Court. I'm not. Roberts, of course, is clearly showed his hand. But we've had two votes that we needed Kavanaugh, Gorsuch to vote with us on, and they didn't. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
That happened this year.
I do.
And there's no guarantee that those guys, our hope is not in man. Our hope is in God and God alone. And we need to be praying and asking God for mercy. And I think he's already extended mercy to us, and we've abused it. In 2016, that was what I call the reprieve. He gave us a reprieve. What did we do? We started taking victory laps. Then when 2018 showed up, we gave up the House, and that's when the House of Cards came down. Why did we lose the House? Because white Republican women did not vote for Donald Trump. And we lost the House.
Well, Trump wasn't running.
I'm not so sure that the Supreme Court is the answer. It's not the answer. The swamp is where the answer is. We get rid of these swamp rats.
But everybody
and
says
then get a constitutional government again, where the three branches are holding each other accountable. That's not happening right now.
But that's my whole point.
They're all collaborating. They're collaborating together to bring us down.
That's my whole point. That's my point. In that you have judges out here who are federal district judges who are implementing laws that affect us on a national level. That can't happen. You never had that before. I didn't know that a federal district court judge could make a ruling that affected the rest of the 50 states. It's ridiculous.
The courts in America, the federal courts in America, and the Supreme Court in particular, is moving and operating beyond the duty specified to it within the Constitution.
Exactly. Of course.
They are making laws and policy, but the check for that is the House of Congress and the executive branch. They're not checking them. They're deferring to them because and abdicating their responsibility to the Supreme Court.
Right.
That's wrong. That's anti. And the only check for it is we, the people. But most people are ignorant of the Constitution. They don't have an idea what it says.
Right.
And they are looking for their elected officials to be the ones to help them, and they're the ones who are working against them.
Oh, yeah.
This is deeper than you think it is.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not deeper than I think it is.
Huge effort, a divine effort on the part of God to turn this ship of state around. This ship will not turn easy or fast. It's going to be slow, if it turns at all.
Well, it better if we want to survive. It better if we want to survive as a country, as a nation.
Well, if it's not, it may not survive.
And,
I don't know.
I know
this. My hope is built on nothing less.
I look at
than Jesus Christ and His righteousness.
I look at
all other ground is sinking sand.
I look at when you have a show on TV named Lucifer, and it's on television. It's on television like 4 seasons. I mean, I could even bring myself to even look at the previews of Lucifer. My visions of Lucifer is of one thing: a beautiful angel that was kicked out of heaven and became Satan.
Right. James, what you're seeing is an indoctrination through entertainment. It's indoctrination through entertainment. We are being manipulated, just like our kids. I tell a lot of my audience when I go out and speak, and I speak around the country, I tell them, I said, look, your fight is against your children right now, because they're the ones who are pushing the socialism. How did they get there? Through the Luciferian laboratories called public schools, who have indoctrinated them into believing that capitalism is evil and that America is evil and that socialism is the answer. That's indoctrination. So what we're being indoctrinated with from Hollywood is to change our morality. Remember,
but when you say anything about
we must change them through.
When you say anything about Hollywood
and change their values,
when you say anything about Hollywood and you say anything about Jews, everybody calls you anti-Semitic. Oh my God, you're anti-Semitic. Well, no, you're just telling the truth. Have you ever heard of a man named Larry Clayman? He founded Judicial Watch. No. Well, he founded Judicial Watch, and then he founded Freedom Watch, freedomwatch.org. Okay. And he's filing lawsuits around the country. Basically, the things that you're talking about is what he's fighting for, and about taking back the country. And he just wrote a book lately. What was his book called? Oh man, there's so many good books out lately, but Larry's book is coming out. When is it coming out? It's coming out later this month, at the end of the month, and it's a wonderful book, and you got to pick it up. You got to pick up a copy or have him send you a copy. And the book is called It Takes a Revolution. It's the scandal. He's talking about the second revolution, a legal revolution.
Well, I'll certainly try to get it. There's a lot of books I need to read.
Yeah, this one is
send me books all the time.
Yeah, this is one that you can use for some interesting things. But it's
right.
It's forget the scandal industry. Just what we're talking about, the scandal industry, Hollywood, the cable news, cable news, regardless of what internet is. Yeah, they sensationalize to keep you coming back, to keep the ratings coming, to keep the advertising dollars coming in. And I look at Fox. I used to be on Fox quite a bit in the past, but I was telling the truth about the police and being stopped by police and being hassled by police in my naval officer uniform because I was driving a Porsche. Did I look like a drug dealer with a Navy uniform on, driving a damn Porsche? Okay, with an officer sticker in the window. You know, man, I tell you, I talk about getting guns. I had a girlfriend call me this morning about Trump and the COVID thing. She called me at 5 o'clock my time, 3 o'clock her time. She's on the West Coast, and we had been talking, and she brought up a couple of weeks ago how we were going skiing just north of LA. We were going to ski. I had ski racks on my Porsche, and the cop walked up to the car with a gun and pulled out, talking about he thought I was a robbery suspect.
We all got stories like that,
man. Exactly. But you know, but when you Google me, Pastor Broden, when you Google me, there's going to be a YouTube that comes up, and this guy says Charles Butler threatened to punch me in the nose. Charles Butler threatened violence against me. And so I was telling these stories. We were talking about police abuse, and I'm telling these stories. He tells me that my story is anecdotal. I said, well, I could get 1,000 black professional men. I'm not talking about criminals. I'm talking about black professionals who've had the same experience like me. I am not a criminal. I do not support criminals being treated like they're not criminals. I could care less about black criminals being abused or anything else. I'm talking about black law-abiding citizens, doctors, lawyers, businessmen being thrown down on the street and guns pulled on them and things like that. That's what I'm talking about. This guy told me that I was lying, basically. I said, man, if you were here, I'd punch you square in the nose. and the thing about it, Pastor Broden, is I meant it, and he knew I meant it. That was too funny.
I'll tell you what,
he put it up. He put it up on the YouTube.
An isolated experience that is a universal experience for most blacks.
And I'm talking about law-abiding blacks, man. See, Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, Jesse.
Absolutely.
What Jesse Jackson did. See, Jesse Jackson is complicit in all this craziness because he decided that we are all the same and that everybody is somebody. And I always say, you ain't nobody if you're a dumb, ignorant black person. You ain't nobody. Don't nobody care about you. You ain't nobody. You are somebody. No, you ain't nobody. You know, but that's it. That was his thing. You are no, you ain't nobody. And so we took all of
Christian doesn't take that position.
Well, I'm not into that. We took all of the respect. We took all of the respect out of our culture in that, you know, it used to be the black people who we had respect for each other, and we certainly had respect for our black professionals. And then now everybody think, oh, well, we all the same. No, we ain't all the same. No, we're not all equal. And we always respected each other that way. There was Dr. So-and-so who lived down the street. There were, you know, I mean, you got respect based on the social pecking order. All that went away with this. You are somebody.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but as a Christian, we are all made in the image of God. Our value, our worth, our dignity as human beings is not in what we do, but in the image that we are made in. And so that's what I don't know if Jesse was pushing that, but that certainly is a Christian idea. Now, no, we're not all equal in terms of capacity. And
I'm talking about respect. I'm talking
with value, worth, and dignity.
Listen, what I'm talking about,
treat each other with dignity.
Well, you just see, this is the other side of what you were talking about. When you talk about the ignorance of Black America, the reality is you're not respected because you're an educated, intelligent man. The most ignorant black person think that they can argue with you and they have something to tell you, that they have something to say to you that's based on any intelligence.
Hold on.
So look, we've signed off of Red State Talk Radio, but we're still talking on you guys, and thanks for tuning in, you YouTube people. Go ahead, Pastor. We're gonna wrap it up here in about 5.
Yeah, well, you and I agree on a lot of things, but I don't know if I agree with you on that.
Well, I mean, it's fine. I'm not into
something
that.
to say, and we ought to listen. And we ought to listen. A fool can't learn from anybody, but a wise man can learn even from a fool.
Well, we can talk about those parables, but my thing is, don't waste my time with voodoo. I call it voodoo intellect. I don't have time for a lot of ignorance, man. I don't suffer fools very well. And see, this is the thing. I believe in that poem Deseretta, that everyone has something to say. Even a drunk on the street has something that he can or she can impart to you. But when you start talking about educating people and educating black people, you don't have any. I don't think you really understand is people don't think that you have anything to say that's any more important than what they have to say, when you really do, because you have an education.
Well, a wrecked life, you can learn from a wrecked life.
I
appreciate being on your show.
Hey, man, you got to come back. You got to come back. Go blue.
Group and
Go blue, dude.
Back to them. Go blue. That's right. Win a championship. God.
Well, you know what, man?
I need a championship.
You don't need no championship. At the end of the day, Ohio State are a bunch of semi-pros. If you want to go to the pros, go to Ohio State. That's where it is. And the guy's getting everybody he wants, because those kids know out of 24 starters, 22 of them getting drafted.
What are you saying about Michigan and their draft?
We just don't attract the kind of players that Ohio State does, and that's for a reason.
Why?
Because at Ohio State the focus is on football. They're playing football. At Michigan, you have guys who go to Michigan. I went to Michigan for an education. I could have gone to Ohio State, but who wants a degree saying you're from Ohio State University? That's what it was called then. Now they've added "the" in front of it, like it's supposed to give them a little uplift. The Ohio State. It's still Ohio State. It's a state school. So the only reason I would, and if I'd had any sense and I've known better, I would have gone to Harvard or Yale and been a football star instead of just another football player.
Well, that's true.
You see what I'm saying? But I went to Michigan for an education.
They do better at recruiting than we do for some reason, but they're recruiting.
They're recruiting outstanding,
man, that are from the great state of Ohio.
Oh yeah.
Them boys are coming out of Cleveland and Columbia. Man, I'm saying, where did he get these horses? It's a football state.
Massillon. Yeah, it's a football state. And, the sad thing about it is Michigan used to have a pretty, and, you look at the guys at Michigan State. Most of those kids are in-state kids. They're from Detroit.
That's true.
We even got a kid from Pontiac.
And they're playing beyond they're being coached better.
Yeah,
that's what's happening there. They're being coached.
Yeah, but Harbaugh, you could take Jim Harbaugh and put him at Ohio State, and he gonna win. He gonna win there too. You take Charles Butler, put him at Ohio State, I'm gonna win too. Whoever you put at Ohio State, they gonna win. Okay, that's who they are, and I don't begrudge them. I mean, times will change, but when it and maybe we'll beat Ohio State next year after, but hey, man, I don't get excited about it. I just think it's a great game. It's a great rivalry, and get on down the road.
Man, I want to win. I'm going to win, Charles. I want a championship, a national championship. We didn't get many when Bo was there.
Ain't gonna be that.
We didn't get any when Bo was there.
Ain't gonna be that.
And we got one year that.
Well, we don't have the conference. We don't have the conference for a national championship. You gotta have that football thing for a national championship. And the Big Ten just let
Wait a minute. Ohio done won national championships, man.
Yeah, but that's because I don't consider Ohio State in the Big Ten, dude.
You don't?
No. They're a national team, baby. They're in a league of their own. Okay. NCAA.
All right.
They're between the pros and the NCAA. Okay.
What does that say about Alabama?
Well, Alabama's in that same sphere. Alabama, LSU,
South Carolina.
Well, I don't know about South Carolina, but
they got horses too. I
don't know about South Carolina, but LSU, Clemson, LSU, Clemson, Bama.
Well, Clemson.
Ohio
That's
State.
what I mean by Clemson. They're in South Carolina.
Yes, Ohio State.
Clemson is what I'm talking about. Yeah,
man. I mean, remember,
those guys, man. They got,
but when we were coming
those
along,
brothers are outstanding, man.
But I remember when we were coming along, Texas was a big player. All the schools in Texas were big players. University of Texas. All those schools in Texas were good football teams. They fell off.
A&M.
A&M, yeah, and then you had the schools. SC was a big player. SC fell off. Where's SC been the last 20 years?
Yeah,
and I graduated from USC
and Georgia fell off too.
Georgia's
fallen. They used to be a big.
Yeah, but I graduated from USC too. So I got a degree from SC and a degree from Michigan. How about that?
All right, Charles. Look, I really got to roll, man. And look, baby. let's do this again.
Love to, Pastor Bro. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Hey, folks, it's Freedom Friday, and we had a great interview there. Appreciate you. Talked a little football. Talked about morals and values. I feel it did in my heart. It's I agree and I disagree with some of our people, and the reason I disagree is only because the numbers just aren't there. I look at before from the 40s to the 60s, Black America was 80% in poverty in the 40s. By the 1950s, only 20 years later. So in the 60s, only 47% of Black America was in poverty, primarily in the South, no industry. And then the next 10 years, so through the 70s, only 18% of Black folks were in poverty. And then, because they followed the same trend, right? It was down another 18 points. So that put it at about, 27, 28%, 29%. Then affirmative action and the civil rights movement kicked in those policies. And the Black community was devastated. Black men were devalued. Couldn't get a job if you were a Black man because they wanted a twofer, a Black woman. So I can check a woman and a Black. Man, I tell you, these things are coming out now. We've talked about these things in barbershops. We've talked about these things in intellectual settings. They are true. And now we have the data. And people are finally understanding what we've been trying to bring to the forefront for the last 30 years. Where these people are today was 30 years ago, man. 30 years ago, dude. So I'm going to play a little Thomas Sewell for you before we go. And then we're going to look at getting out of here because it is Freedom Friday. Here we go. Here we go.
Immigrants in the abstract, as that passage indicates. About the immigration debate is they talk about immigrants in the abstract, and there are no immigrants in the abstract, as that passage indicates. And we don't know who those people are that are here. They may all be PhDs from the University of Chicago, in which case they should all stay. Or they may in fact be people who majored in sociology at Berkeley, in which cases you can get them all out of here as soon as possible. But we don't know. That's one of the problems of so-called immigration policy. We don't have an immigration policy unless we control the border.
See, these are things that I talked about years and years ago about illegal immigration, about immigration and the negative impact it had on poor Blacks and poor whites. because we were competing for jobs with immigrants. And who started that? Democrats. To do what? To bring America down, to keep America's poor from rising to the middle class. You know, we need to focus on this. We need to be careful. And we need to focus on Joe Biden. And however you feel about Donald Trump, I can only say this, and I am certainly endorsing Donald Trump. So let me be clear. However you feel about Donald Trump, you better vote for Donald Trump. Because if you get Joe Biden in, you're going to have thousands of people coming to our border. We're going to be disrespected on the world stage. You know, Iran laughed in our face when Barack Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. The guy, go back and look at videotape. Go back and look at the YouTubes. The Iranian foreign minister stood there looking like a little Cheshire cat. Like these stupid Americans. He just stood there and grinned in our face. I wanted to slap that silly smile off his damn face. That's how I play. I'm an American. And I love being American. I love being tough. And I love being gruff. And no, yes, I am a Christian. But you hit me, I'm going to try to knock your behind out. So, we're going to get out of here for the weekend. We'll be back on Monday. And when we come back, we'll be blazing. I can tell you that. We had a lot to talk about on Monday. And, you know, hopefully you'll tune in and have your friends tune in too. Little Les McCann and Eddie Harris. Here we go. See ya.